I'm Taya from Ukraine and welcome to my channel again. I'm not alone, as you can see. I'm here with Alina.
Hello friends, welcome to Taya's channel.
Yes, you probably know her because she has a really cool YouTube channel. She has lots of subscribers. She's traveling around the world. She's really making fantastic job.
Oh,
like
thank
seriously,
you very much. Thank you
the
very
way
much.
you travel, it's like a dream, I think, of everyone's life. But if you don't know Alina, please introduce yourself. What do you do?
Well, I guess the first thing to mention is that I am originally from Ukraine as well. I was born in Kyiv, but living in Canada for the past 25 years. That's why I talk this way. But yeah, I've been a full-time travel YouTuber for about 2.5 years. And I primarily like to visit places that are kind of off the main tourist beaten track, Ukraine being one of those places. I think this is definitely an underrated country that most travelers from Canada and America don't know about. So I try and make videos to kind of introduce people to more Eastern European and off the beaten path kind of travel destinations.
So she's making YouTube videos not only about East Europe, but also about the whole world in general.
Yeah.
I really recommend you to go to her channel and check the videos if you want to know about Ukraine specifically. I will leave, of course, the link of her channel down below and in comments. So don't
Thank
forget.
you very much. Thank you.
And since you've touched that you are originally from Ukraine and you moved to Canada, how old you were and why you moved there?
Yeah, so I think I was about 5 years old when we first went over, but the reason was that my mom married my stepdad, who's Canadian, and yeah, he took us over to a very small town in Saskatchewan, and I've spent basically most of my life there.
Did you miss Ukraine? Like, I know you were like 5 years old, but still you already know how to speak, so...
Yeah, no, I think I do remember there being kind of this phase where I didn't understand like what was going on. You know, I had never been on a plane before.
Oh, yeah.
To not be in a big city even, like, you know, Kyiv's 3.5 million people. I lived in a town of 800. We lived in an apartment here. We lived in a house in Canada. So it was a very big culture shock. And I think for the first few years I really did miss, you know, Ukraine, and I missed, you know, my grandma and my other family. But in time, you know, you get used to, you know, the new place where you live. But I'll always have like a piece of my heart here in Kyiv and stuff. Like I will always come back to Ukraine to visit.
Did you feel different growing up? Even though Canada, it's kind of like a country of different kind of immigrants, but still you were in a smaller town with the accent maybe at the beginning, I don't know, when you speak English.
Yeah, I mean, I can only remember so much from that age, but I remember there was at least a year where I basically like didn't really speak to anybody, or like I was trying to, you know, say certain things, but you know, people weren't understanding me because I spoke no English obviously when we went over. I don't even remember exactly how I learned it, but I guess as a kid, you know, as a kid you pick up languages much easier. Yeah, it was definitely hard, and I did feel like I stood out, like even my name. I remember as a kid I was wishing I had a different name. Because people would like pronounce my name Alina or Elena or something like that. Like that was a really weird name in a small town of like Canadians and stuff. So it took a few years to like feel comfortable in myself for sure.
Now you've grown up, do you think you had a privilege moving to Canada, or you think it would be better if you stay in Ukraine?
I mean, I think it's basically an obvious sort of choice in my particular situation that it was definitely a privilege to move there, because before we did, like my family was not that well off. Like we really were struggling here in Ukraine, and especially after the fall of the Soviet Union, I think most families...
So you moved in 90s, yes?
Yeah, 1995. Yeah,
yeah, 90s
basically.
was very
Horrible.
hard.
Yeah, horrible time for most people. So it's like, of course, especially in those years, I think it did make our lives so much easier. It gave us more opportunities. But to be honest, I think, now that Ukraine is changing, there are more opportunities here. I think it would be very different if I was, growing up now than growing up then. It might be a different situation. But in my particular case, in the time that I was born, I definitely had an upper hand, and it was a privilege to be able to move
So you
abroad.
have some real relatives still living here,
Yeah.
and when you visit them, do you feel some kind of cultural, all these differences? Like, oh, they don't understand something, or
Yeah, I mean, there definitely is like cultural differences, I think, between like North America and, let's say, Eastern Europe on a whole. There's definitely differences. But even my mom, who obviously lived with me in Canada, because she still has the Eastern European mentality. So it doesn't matter if I'm in Canada or here. It's like
yeah,
my
yeah,
relatives
right.
all definitely have a different mentality. So yeah, I mean, things like, going to university, or when I was younger, I felt a lot of pressure to get married quickly. Those kinds of things took a while for my family here to accept that in North America, it's okay not to go to university. It's okay to get married maybe a little bit later in life or something. So once they kind of, began to be open to more ideas, I think it was easier.
familiar struggles.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
How often do you come to Ukraine now?
Well, for a while, I think it was every 2 to 3 years, but lately, I think it's been like every 2 years. So yeah, I definitely try and come as much as I can, because I still do have my family here that I really like to visit. And yeah, I really miss Ukraine when I don't come and visit for a while. So
Really?
I try and come, whenever I'm in Europe, I try and make a stopover in Ukraine.
Yeah, that's so cool. What you noticed the main cultural differences between Canadians and Ukrainians? Like, let's start with talking, with relationships with people.
Well, probably it is just kind of the way you're conditioned to react in social situations. I find that in North America, we almost do have more of a script. It might be a little bit false, if you want to call it that, where it's like you're supposed to smile a lot, you're over super friendly. I mean, maybe that's a Canadian thing too, because like they say Canadians are so nice, right? They're such nice people. But some of it can be, I guess, a little bit put on, a little bit fake, whereas in Ukraine, you definitely won't have that. Like, people usually are very neutral until they get to know you, and you kind of build a relationship. Like, that really happens over time, whereas in North America, you almost have to be like really like warm and friendly right to begin with.
How about expectations of your life? Do they pressure in Canada or expect you to reach something at a specific point of your age or something like that? Do they have?
I think, all cultures have a certain amount of expectations, and especially parents onto their kids, what they expect. I think we all feel that pressure to a certain extent, but I think it is less for certain things in Canada. I think overall, it's much more like open-minded about, when you do certain things in your life, different careers that you want to do. Like, I think that overall being like, let's say, an artist or like an actor or something like that, people in North America would be much more open to their kids doing that as a career than they probably would here. Like, I mean, my mom even like was telling me that I'm just like, you're gonna be homeless, like you're gonna be on the streets. Like,
Alina is given this example because it wasn't, still is your, like it was your job, but maybe it still is, so that's what you faced with.
Oh yeah, it's like I never went to university, And when my mom found out about it, like, she was like devastated. Like, she really wanted me to go to university, and she thought there would be no way that I could, support myself and have a good career without it. So it took a while for her to come around to these like new ideas and new ways of doing things. But now, like, thankfully she's really happy for me, and she's kind of looked at things in a different way. So
what I wanted to say about this question, expecting something at certain age, there's some thought that I've heard that people in West, they mature much later than people here. That's why it's okay to extend your studies until 30s or something like that. Here no one goes to study when they're 30 years old. It's like this maybe if you're in younger open-minded generation or something, but usually, you should have a car, you should have diploma and stable income and get a flat, or I don't know, saving up. Because of the, I don't know, difficulties in life and people having this closed-minded, they expect you to achieve more, maybe.
The primary thing would probably be that for the average person, it's like life is harder in Ukraine on a whole. There's less safety nets. So it's like you have to get your life together quicker, right? It's like you have to find a job that puts food on the table, that, sets you up for success, I think, a lot quicker than you're forced to, let's say, in Canada. Parents are probably much more like soft on their kids in Canada than they are here. Like in Canada, parents will be like, oh yeah, you can live with us at home, you can keep going to school for 6-7 years, to get some degree.
We'll pay for that,
yeah. Whereas like in Ukraine, it's like if you're like 23 and you don't have a good career, or you're not doing something that's pushing you in that direction, like I think most parents would be very upset. And they wouldn't let their kids just sit at home and do nothing.
Oh yeah. Sometimes, of course, mothers can be overprotected, and they will do everything for you. But if we talk about in general, like they will be like, you need to support us when we are old and blah blah blah. Where in Western culture, it's like, as far as I know, it's normal if your parents are old and you can send them to
an old folks home.
Home, yes.
Yeah, it's hard because I'm on the fence with that. It's like, I think, of course, as a child, if you have a good relationship with your parents, let's say, of course you want to do everything you can to give your parents a good life. And I guess it's up to each individual family whether you want to like live with your parents in their old age, or whether they can be happy in a home. But it is a cultural difference where usually kids will live with their parents under one roof if they have nowhere else to go, whereas in North America, I'd say most situations the parents are living in like a retirement home or by themselves.
By the way, you hear nice music background. So it's true that here family connections are stronger, and you're right. I know people who are 40 and still living with their parents because why I need to spend so much money on rent and all this independent idea, I think isn't about our mentality. It's like you leave your parents and you don't help them. It's a bit egoistic, but I really like kind of Western idea. Of course, you shouldn't let your parents die or suffer.
Something bad.
Yeah, but you should be like independent, have an independent life, because sometimes you cannot give everything to your family, and you just need to establish your life.
Yeah, to have your own life as well.
What do you think Ukraine lack of that Canada has? I think this will be a long list, then a vice versa.
Well, I can only speak from a certain limited experience because I haven't lived here full time. So I am just speaking still technically. Hearing from family, hearing from friends what they say, and just my own little bit of experience when I do come here. So by no means am I an expert on this, but it does make me very sad that there aren't very many strong social nets for people who really need it, and primarily senior citizens. Like
What do you mean?
well, like the pensions here, for old people here, I think are ridiculous. Like there's no way a person can survive on that amount of money. And unless you do have, family taking care of you, you literally have senior citizens begging on the street for money that have nowhere to go. Like, that's just completely unacceptable to me. I am not by no means like, for socialism and communism completely, but I think there has to be like a certain amount of welfare for the people who really need it, like who can't work or, have a disability. Like there has to be some kind of social equity to help them so people aren't just like on the streets or something.
Totally agree with you. I wanted to explain why, because those people who are seniors right now, they lived in Soviet Union and they saved up when they lived in Soviet Union.
And then
when it's gone, that's the biggest reason why they cannot have funds right now.
Yeah.
When I travel abroad, like there are many seniors from European countries who travel with groups like Germans. You never find seniors who travel like from Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
How about what Canada doesn't have that we have?
Well, I was actually just thinking about this the other day, where in Canada, because it is such a big country, usually the most common way that you're going to get around is going to be by airplane. You're going to have to fly. And Canada has 2 airlines who basically, work together to always keep the prices high. So it's very expensive actually to fly across Canada. Like for me to fly from central Canada where my parents live to Toronto where I used to live, round trip used to be like 600 Canadian dollars. So every time I wanted to visit my parents, it's like a one-way trip to Europe. It's like it's that expensive. And what sucks also is that sure you could drive, but that would be, very expensive and time consuming too. What I'm trying to get at is that Canada really doesn't have an easily accessible and inexpensive way to get around the country. Whereas here in Ukraine, I think it's fantastic that they have like so many like trains that go across the country. You have like public buses that like go at an often schedule. Like in Canada, we do have buses too, but they usually maybe go like once a day or something like that. So on a whole, I think here in Ukraine, you guys actually have a much better public transit system than we do in Canada. Like even if you compare, the different wages, it's still much less expensive to travel around Ukraine than it is to travel around Canada.
Do you guys have a trains?
We do, but it's not good. It's not good. And like they don't even go to like, many different places. It's just usually like one line across Canada as far as like a passenger train, and nobody really takes them.
About flights, they are still maybe pretty expensive for the average Ukrainian, but still if you're middle class, it's still okay. Like for 100 you can get from Kyiv to Odessa. So it's around 1 hour flight.
And one other thing that I just thought of 100% is better here in Ukraine is your like cell phone plans, like your data plans, because they like murder us in Canada for the prices. Like it's obscene. Like the prices of cell phone plans in Canada, I think are some of the highest in the world, even if you like level, the wage increase and stuff. Like for a monthly plan of like, let's say 10 gigabytes a month, unlimited talk and text, is going to be an average of like 80 Canadian dollars a month.
Wow, that's expensive.
Like even the States is like way less expensive than we are. No, they're just overcharging is what it is.
And we are thinking they are overcharging us. Like $10 a month.
$10 too much.
And maybe next question will be kind of personal. Do you prefer Ukrainian way of dating or Canadian?
In the perfect circumstances of either, I think I probably do tend to err towards Ukrainian, like the more traditional type of dating and gender roles. But having said that, like I'm obviously not a woman, who's going to be a housewife, and I don't follow that particular mold, and I wouldn't expect, my husband to be like the only breadwinner and to pay for everything. So I'm kind of almost in that middle ground where if I'm dating someone, of course I would prefer the traditional gender roles, and I like to cook for a guy, I like to do all the feminine things and stuff, but if I'm actually going to be with somebody long term, I think it is more of a partnership then, right? It's like you're both contributing to the household in different ways, and you're equals in the sense of value, just maybe you have different roles in what it is you do. Because I don't like how in North America dating has become just very casual. It's become very short term. I find that people don't actually put in that much effort. They're not that romantic. And yeah, just coming from this kind of background and having guys like expect a girl to pay like 50-50 when you just spend so much time getting ready, like looking all pretty and everything, doing all those things, and then they expect you to pay 50% on top of that. I'm like, really? Like, where are your manners? Like, I don't understand that kind of culture.
That's what I can agree with. Because I was thinking about this topic a lot. I'm like, this 50-50, maybe it's all about this gender. Maybe it's right to do, but I still cannot force myself, to put this Western type of culture, like you said, very casual. I mean, we also have, of course, younger generation who's dating, and then maybe when you meet someone who's the one, then they will put efforts to that, because here we would expect a man to take initiative, and he will show his serious intentions, and of course if you like him, then you will
do things for him.
Yes, but still first move for serious intentions men expect to do.
Of course. Well, and that's the issue with North American dating culture. I think it's actually a really big negative for the women, because not only is she still expected to look a certain way, women still end up doing a lot of stuff in the home and looking after kids, and she has to work. So it's like you're doing everything now. It's like, what? I'm just like, how is that equality? How is that a good deal? How is that liberation? So that I genuinely don't understand about Western mentality when women think that they have it better with 50-50, because they don't.
And you think most people in Canada don't think like you? They think more like, I'm a dependent woman and all this stuff?
I don't know. It's hard to say. In Canada, it's a big country and lots of different cultures there too. So you definitely have a range of opinions with that. But yeah, I think with this younger generation, it is more of this equality culture. Not that there's nothing wrong with equality, but I think a lot of people miss the point of what that means. Where actually one group will end up doing more than they were before.
Equality, but pressing someone to do something. I don't need you, go away. All this stuff.
There's less commitment and there's less effort, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would think the same. If I pay 50%, then I would
it's a friendship. It's a roommate, right?
Like friends with benefits or something. But not serious relationships, definitely.
Yeah.
That's it for today. We shoot a very fun video about things not to do in Ukraine. You have to check it. It will be on Alina's channel.
Yes.
I will definitely also post it somewhere. Don't forget to check Alina's channel. It's amazing, and also she does it the same actively on Instagram. So I will post links of those both social nets in description below. Thank you so much, Alina. I think we made some of our subscribers happy.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for meeting me. It was wonderful to have this little chat with you guys.
Thank you. And let us know what are your thoughts about the topics that we discussed, and say regards to Alina. She will definitely comment to this video and read some of your
I will.
thoughts. Keep being positive.
Bye.
Bye. Пока.